From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for October 25th, 2015. And I have a lot of information to put through out of this video here. We're going to steer away from the talk about Patricia because that was something we covered on in blog form, written blog form, of course, and now it's just bringing remnant rain to Texas and Louisiana. So there's definitely other avenues you can look at that we have put out products. So look at our Facebook page; it'll put out some blogs that we put out on that subject. So I don't want to bombard you with that because it's pretty much done and over with, except for the remnant rains now. And here's our chart here, what we're looking at for the upcoming week. Of course, this was put out Friday, so today being the 25th, we were talking about this first thing on the chart here is the cold front that came through overnight. Temperatures will be below average. This was yesterday, near average today. And then as we get into the next couple of days, we're going to go below average before 2-day above average. Then the remnants of Patricia come in. Okay, and this is just going to give us some rain here. Some generally ½ inch to an inch. A few areas go over an inch, 1 to 2 inches, and that would be for our eastern areas here, and that would be along the cold front. So basically, Patricia is going to be absorbed by a cold front and become part of that, and that's going to come through. It's going to come through in the middle of the week and give us that extra added lift of precipitation from that. And then we hit below average straight through for the end of the month and into early November, near to slightly above after that point up to the 5th. And then we the rest of the month that we think actually month of November as a whole, in fact, we're averaging above average. Same thing with December, but you'll see something we have here on the chart that we haven't had before, and that is this right here. This is snowfall projection by us for the month of December. Average to slightly above, despite temperatures averaging above average. Now, this is causing a lot of confusion. I saw a lot of crazy posts on the comments on the Facebook page here. And I have to stop and think sometimes that what seems like common sense to me does not seem like common sense to others, because what I think is something that's pretty pretty drawn out pretty easily. To remember that we went to school for this, so we know a little bit more about it. I try to break this down as easy as possible so everybody understands. But sometimes people see above average temperatures and they're thinking above average meaning 50s and 60s. Well, that doesn't mean that. Average temperature in December is not 50s and 60s. So if you're above average, the average temperature is 45 for example, and you average the month 47, well, it's still above normal. That doesn't mean it's going to be 60s and 70s. Okay, so it doesn't take much of a fluctuation in temperatures to have some cold periods in there also. And we do think, and we'll show you why, we do think there's the opportunity for some snow here in December that will give us to average snowfall or slightly above. And we'll show you why. We'll go through this whole thing now. First, we're going to start off with the ensemble mean. Okay, now this is for the end of the month. This is that period for the end of the month. Now, the reason why we have this big deep trough in the east here's a big trough out here, and this is a big area of low pressure in the Aleutian Islands. Here's a big ridge out here in the center part of the country, and a big dip in the east. This is going to give us our end of month cold from the 29th, 30th time frame through November 1st. Real cold shot here, and it's going to be pretty cold. Okay, so this is going to rival what happened last weekend when we had all that temperature stuck in the 40s and maybe 50 in some places, but most areas are staying in the 40s. And this is because this is in large part due to a recurving typhoon, okay, in the Pacific. Now, the recurving typhoons have been given these cold shots to us, and what this does when you have a low in the Aleutians like this is the remnants of that. These recurving typhoons. You have a low in the Aleutian Islands up here. That's going to make a ridge out here in the western United States. But when you have a ridge in the west, you're going to have a trough in the east. It's just the way it works. It's up and down. It's an amplified pattern. Okay? So when you have that, you have a cross-polar flow. And you have a cold shot that comes down here from Canada. And you get really cold here. But the pattern is very fast. Pattern is very, very fast. So it's a very transient pattern, so nothing sticks around for weeks on end or anything like that. So here we get into the month of November, and this will stick around now. We're going to change to this regime here where we have more of a zonal flow. Okay, your cold air stays up here, up north. All right, you have a little bit of cold air out west because you have some ridging. You have ridging out here instead of having a low in the Aleutians, and you'll replace that with a ridge. Well, you have a ridge out here. You have your trough then is down in the western United States, and you get ridging out here. Now this is going to give us only slightly above normal temperatures, we think, for the month of November, at least to start. This is looking at the first 15 days, and once you get past like the second, third, fourth time frame of the month, go right through the 15th to the end of the cycle here of this model. And this by the way, is the GFS ensembles. Okay, the European ensembles do something very similar, and they keep this slightly above normal temperature regime sitting over the eastern half of the United States, cold air locked up to the north with a positive Arctic oscillation. I think that is what is going to happen. Okay, so we're not looking at the month of November being a warm one. Starts off very, very cold here with this trough. Once that lifts out, this is what it's replaced with for basically the next 2 weeks. Nothing going on at all. Just slightly above normal temperatures, average and near to slightly above for the entire period. Not really much in the way of fluctuation either. Okay, so nothing crazy above normal here. We're not going back to 80s or anything. Don't get excited. Another thing we're looking at here is the Madden-Julian oscillation. Okay, the Madden-Julian oscillation currently is in borderline phase 1, phase 2. It's to start November. Okay. Right now we're in phase 2, kind of go back towards the borderline of phase 1, phase 2 here by the start of November, and then throughout the first week of November, you propagate through phase 2 and toward phase 3. Okay, now the reason I'm showing you this is that what the Madden-Julian oscillation is a intra-season climate cycle. So these can last generally 6-8 weeks, and this will give you a interseasonal variability in temperatures. Okay, now for the months of November, December, January, if you have phase 2 and phase 3, this is what you get. Now again, orange and yellows here above normal, blues, light blue, dark blue, those are below normal. Okay, phase 2 keeps the warmth up here, so we're kind of like slightly above normal here, and that's why we're seeing this right now. That's why you're seeing this slightly above normal, because this is phase 2. This is a classic phase 2 look. Okay, so you look at phase 2. Well, look at there. I'm sorry, that's phase 3. Here, here's phase 2. Okay, just slightly above normal temperatures across our coverage area. If you get into phase 3, then you get you're much above normal temperatures. You're way above normal. No, well, I'll say above normal. Way above will be 5 and 6. We're not there. So phase 2, phase 3. If it does get into phase 3, we start warming up a little bit more for the second half of the month. Okay, and when we look at our November forecast, when we're trying to come up with a long-term forecast, we were talking about, since our autumn outlook, we had November above normal, we had October below normal, and we had September well above normal. Well above normal in September was correct. October was not quite as cold as we thought it would be, and that was kind of messed up in the beginning of the month by Hurricane Joaquin. Okay, so otherwise we would have been a couple degrees below normal, like we projected. So we're probably going to end up just barely below normal in the month of October, but below normal nonetheless. Okay, here is a look at some of our favorite analog years. This is the November forecast is going to a warmer forecast. Of course, we did that in August when we did that outlook for the autumn. Okay, there's 3 similar years that have a strong eastward propagating MJO, which is what we have right now, strong eastward propagating MJO. Okay, and it's starting in phase 1 and phase 2 for November. Now these are the 3 years are 2002, 2009, and 1987. All right. So where the pattern wants to go right now is most likely showing some of our, we like to use analogs. We like to look in the past and say, okay, well this year did the same thing. What other years did we have? An El Nino year where we had eastward propagating MJO starting in phase 1 and 2 in November, eventually going to phase 3. When did we have that? So we can go back in the past and look at that and say, oh, well, here's 1987 that did that. Okay, and that was above normal. And oh yeah, here's 2009. Yeah, that was above normal too. So we just kind of look at things and say, okay, well, so our analogs match up our thinking. So these are analogs to back us up a little bit. So then we get this here. There's a November temperature forecast where above normal across our entire coverage area for the month of November. Of course, we start off slightly above normal for the first half. One of the biggest drivers of this, now we're going to get into something else here. This is the sea surface temperatures. These are the sea surface temperatures that we are looking at on September 25th. This is a month ago. Now today is October 25th, so we have a different look here. Sea surface temperatures, and everybody was getting concerned or saying, oh, it's going to be just like 1997, greatest warming here in the Nino 1 and 2 regions, and it started backing off Nino 1 and 2, and the greatest warming is in Nino 3. Well, we started, you don't want your best warming over here in the eastern basins. Your eastern basins are over here. You don't want your best warming there. Well, in September it was, and it was fine for September. And I got a couple people saying, oh, no, look at the sea surface temperatures, and it's September 10th, and they're sending me messages on Twitter saying, oh, wow, this is bad. Well, why is it bad? It's September. Who cares? But now it's in October. Now you start paying attention. And look what it's doing in October. October, the greatest warming, has now shifted to the west. Well, this isn't a good area. This isn't a good area. You want the best warming in El Nino to be spread out and more centralized versus being in the eastern basins if you want cold and snow here in the winter. Now, I know some of you are going to be watching this going, well, who asked for cold and snow? I'm wanting warmth this winter. You're talking as if you want that. Well, I do. Sorry, that's so it's what I love cold and snow. It's one of my favorite times of year. And I have no shame in saying that. So I know some of you. I realize some of you really can't stand winter, and that's fine. So you guys would be a fan of this if that was the case. You would be a fan of more easterly based warming. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, unfortunately. So we do see this trend, the best warming taking place here in the central regions, and that's what you want if you want a cold and snow in the east. Okay, in the winter. Also a very warm PDO. This is a very warm PDO. This is also very good, very conducive for winter. We'll get into that in a second. Here is our favorite analog now. Now you look at the current. These are sea surface temperatures, more centralized. Again, very warm PDO. A little bit of warming up here, nothing crazy. Okay. Look at 1957. Warm PDO, more centralized El Nino. Obviously an El Nino here, and just a little bit above normal warming here. Looks very similar, doesn't it? Looks almost identical. So when we look at sea surface temperatures, why do we look at sea surface temperatures? Sea surface temperatures drive the climate. Sea surface temperatures are what drive our weather across the globe. There is no denying that. So our weather goes as far as sea surface temperatures go. So if sea surface temperatures are showing this, which is almost exactly the same as this, our current, then that's a good chance that our weather is going to mimic 1957. This is why we use these analogs. We look in the past and say, oh, well, this year did that too. Okay, here's another one, 2002. Very similar. Okay, now some differences here along the East Coast. Okay, some differences along the East Coast here are different. But you still got a warm PDO up here. You still have a centralized based El Nino. So these are very good matches as we head into winter. One of the things we did is look at closer look at those analog years. Okay, and these are all the analog years we use for that we wrote down that we could use for the fall. And this is Philadelphia total snowfall in those analog years. Now the favored years based on the current El Nino and the current PDO and everything else, QBO, everything else goes with it. Our favorites right now are right here. Let me get we're going to scratch 72 and 82. These two are most likely out. So it's 2006. It just does not follow what we're doing right now. And right now, although 2009 looks okay right now for November, it won't look good in December. Where we're going in December does not look good. So you look what that leaves. Okay, 87, 57, and 2002. Notice that this is in Philadelphia. This is not, Philadelphia doesn't typically get a ton of snow in relation to the rest of our coverage area here. Okay, you usually get more northwest of the city and up towards the Lehigh Valley, points northwest in the Poconos, all the way up to Williamsport, Scranton, places like that get a lot more snow typically. The State College. So for Philadelphia to get these amounts of snow in December, that's above normal for them, except for 87. 87 was not. But if I had to rank these in order of favorites right now, this is not number 1. This is probably number 2, and this is number 3 as we head into December. Rank order. Okay, but you see each month here, look at it, look at this, the snow it's producing here in Philadelphia. So just because we're above normal, just because the temperatures are above normal for the entire month, which I do think is going to end up happening in December, even if the temperatures are above normal, doesn't mean you can't get cold shots, and you can't time that cold with storms, and that's exactly what happened in these years. So that's why we're saying, if you look at our opening here, that's why we're saying December snow averages slightly above, because it's happened in every one of our analog years. Every one of them, and they're very close matches. Another thing we're looking at here, and we're going to go into this more. I'm going to start wrapping this up because it's getting long here. In the next couple of weeks here, everywhere we're going to look at is our snow depth, and this is the snow depth in Siberia, which is this right here, and northern Alaska. The rates here that the snow is accumulating here in Siberia is astounding. Record territory. Okay, if you have snow cover that builds up this much of the northern latitudes, and let's look it over here in Canada, same thing, you're getting a lot of buildup up here. What that does in winter is that is going to promote a negative Arctic oscillation. Negative Arctic oscillation allows this cold air to come down here from Canada and lock itself in, and then if it meets up that active southern jet, look out, you get up some big storms. Okay, so now, although we think, before you get excited and say, oh, well, Eastern PA Weather Authority, you're going to go on a limb again and say, go against what everybody's saying about a warm winter, and they're going to have epic snow this year. Well, no, we're not. Okay, we're going average to near average snowfall for the month of December, based on these analog years. That's all we have listed in this chart. We don't have anything else listed for winter. Nothing. Okay. If you want my gut feeling, I think right now December does something like this. You get one of these surprise storms here in December, or maybe one or two. Okay, timing the cold correctly. Timing it perfectly, and then you get into December. I think is a below average snowfall month, and then we have a rough 6-8 weeks of winter, sometime in February through the middle of March. Okay, I think February and then through at least the middle of March are going to be pretty wild around here again. That's my thinking right now, and again, that's based in large part based on our analogs that are making sense to us right now, the ones that make the most sense. Why would you not use an analog of, like, say, 1957, when sea surface temperatures look exactly like this? I just told you sea surface temperatures drive the pattern. So if sea surface temperatures look like this, which is almost virtually the same as this, okay, and you look at all the other factors that are involved in here, I know there's other ones, but this is the main driver, folks. This is the main driver, and it's pretty close. So this is why it's our number one analog. Doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly the way 1957 was. Okay, it could happen like 2002. Okay, could happen like 87. Now, 87, 88 wasn't a big snowfall year here. I think it does second half because of our favorite analogs. I do think we have a busy second half, but it's going to start off on the warm side, but it doesn't mean we can't get snow, especially in the month of December. That's this edition of Weather Weeklies for October 25th, 2015. Join me again next week. We're going to get into the month of November and start re-examining more closely some of our snow depths and what that means for the anticipation of our winter outlook coming out on the 13th of November. We're going to give you some free tidbits going into that as we get into next week. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich. We'll see you again next week.